Absolute Blue, Buaiso's Works with Japanese Natural Indigo, is an exhibition that introduces various works of Japanese natural indigo through the young indigo dye collective BUAISO's practices. Indigo dye is among human civilization's oldest textile techniques. Textile dyed with natural indigo have great tensile strength and are highly insect repellent, serving both practical functions as well as a decorative one. In China, indigo-dyed threads and cloth have been excavated from ruins dating back to the Han Dynasty, and it is said that indigo originally came to Japan from China via the Korean peninsula 1,500 years ago. Due to the labor-intensive production and high maintenance requirement for natural indigo dye, it was replaced by synthetic dye by the end of the 19th century. Buaiso was found in 2015 in Kamitocho, Tokushima Prefecture, a place known for traditional Japanese indigo dye. From farming ai to fermenting tsukumo and dyeing, Buaiso has conducted diverse practices using Japanese natural indigo dye, dyeing not only yarn and fabric, but also furniture made of natural wood. From the very beginning of their establishment, Buaiso has been making their original workers' clothing line. In 2018, they were able to realize the dream of making hand-dyed indigo jeans. Challenging the technical limitations of natural indigo dye, the essence of Buaiso's works lies in the beauty of the color blue, a color highly associated with labor, whether in the farmland or the workshop. In this regard, this exhibition aims to reveal how these beautiful blue colors can be achieved by introducing Buaiso's various practices from farming to dyeing with natural indigo as well as applied techniques. The exhibition also highlights jeans made by Buaiso, one of their pursued passions. Paying homage to the garment's humble origins, Buaiso's jeans are made for workers with the hope of becoming their second skin and to withstand regular wash and wear. Part of the exhibition presents the actual Buaiso's workers' wares and the labor in patina. As the visitors enter chat, they will encounter Buaiso's banners in 100 indigo shades. This installation represents symbolically where the varieties of blue originated from. The subtle gradient of indigo shades are acquired from the earth. The infinite range of hues shows the beauty of indigo colors, which are gift to each of us. The traditional Japanese dye process is normally divided into two parts: the indigo farming and indigo dyeing. Each part was historically handled by a skilled master. However, at Buaiso, they perform all the processes from making indigo to dyeing. There are roughly 4 different types of indigo found in the world. The indigenous Japanese indigo plant is called Persicaria tenchoria. Cultivating Persicaria tenchoria begins in March, when Buaiso plants 0.7 hectares at a farm near their studio. After planting, the indigo crop requires frequent water and weeding. Persicaria tenchoria grows very quickly, with harvest starting in June. The picked leaves are then dried in a greenhouse. Meanwhile, dust and stems are being removed by the blowing of an electric fan. Every indigo plant requires a suitable method to achieve its color. To acquire indigo blue, dry Persicaria tenchoria needs to go through 2 steps of fermentation. The first one being composting. In this room, you are introduced to the composting process of traditional Japanese indigo dye called Tsukumo. Tsukumo is a traditional Japanese indigo dye made by composting dry Persicaria tanchuria leaves. The composting process usually requires 4 months. The harvest and dry leaves are placed into a mold and covered with rice straw mats to maintain a particular temperature. Supplying the right amount of water and mixing and turning the mold of leaves once a week is essential. This work is called Kyokachi. The process of composting indigo leaves emits ammonia gas and heat, producing a temperature as high as 17 degrees Celsius. Once this process is completed, the resulting indigo dye can be preserved for years. One of the highlights of the exhibition is the 4 new large-scale indigo works in the form of noran, or fabric divider. These exceptional pieces are made using stencil dyeing, resist dyeing, shibori sumi, and Kyokachi techniques, which are rarely used today. Visitors are invited to go through each noran to enter the next room. The first noran is called the rope cylinder tied pattern noran, which is made with the shibori sumi technique. Shibori sumi is a relatively primitive technique of pattern dyeing involving tying, sewing, or winding yarn to create areas where dye cannot penetrate. Buaisou's preferred method is a dynamic modern take on traditional arashi shibori dyeing, whereby cloth is wrapped around the rod, or now a water pipe, and a rope is wound tightly around that. The rope's rough fiber strands served as a textured dye resist. The next room introduced the process of making the dye liquid with ingredients and tools. The dye liquid is brewed strictly according to the traditional akuhakodate passed down from the 17th century Edo period. The dye, Tsukumo, is being placed in large pots together with wood ash, wheat bran, and shell ash. Buaiso team members check the indigo fields every morning and finish each workday by stirring the indigo wax in the evening. Their daily life is intimately married to indigo. Once fermentation starts and the correct balance of pH level is reached, it is time to dimp and dye. Buaisou's remarkable skills have fascinated creators from the diverse fields of high fashion, furniture making, and sportswear. While pursuing traditional Japanese indigo dye methods, Buaiso never limit themselves to traditional Japanese crafts and proactively sought collaboration with various makers and designers to broaden the use of different techniques and modes of expression for natural indigo dye. After learning about the basic Japanese indigo dye process, visitors are invited to the next gallery via bird wax resist dye noran in Manmaku curtain form. Rokatsu Somi wax resist dyeing involves applying heated wax to the fabric by means of brush or stem, immersing the fabric in an indigo dye vat, then dipping it in boiling water to melt away the wax resist. Buaiso used mainly mineral-based paraffin wax, but also mix in Mukuro and Mitsuro as dictated by the pattern in order to better create color depth, gradation, texture, and volume. The final results of wax-resist dyeing are difficult to predict, but Buaiso's years of experience and comprehensive grasp of the optimum thickness of wax have proven very reliable. Buaiso's special invented technique of wax-resist dye creates a blurred effect between the dyed and undyed areas. Next room, Rest Stage Buaiso Studio. Buaiso's members renovated a cowshed to create their own studio. They made almost all the furniture, including shelves and workshops tables, out of inexpensive materials such as wooden plates, concrete blocks from hardware shops, and recycled abundant furniture. The 3,200 square foot wooden studio is divided into 3 sections: office, studio for dye and wash, and sewing workshop. Most of Buaiso's tools can be sourced from hardware shops, but they are often customized to fit their new purpose. The studio and tools made by repurposing and recycling represent Buaiso's do-it-ourselves spirit. This studio is where all the exhibited noren were made. The fabrics used in making noren are 28 by 50 cm, a dimension that allows manual handling. The combined length of 2 of these fabrics is precisely the width of a Japanese kimono. All Buaiso's fabrics are all of the same length, which it is convenient to dye with. Buaiso regards cloth as more than just a blank surface. They truly appreciate the way cloth acts and functions by stretching taut, draping, flattering, or becoming transparent, soft, wrinkled, and even tearing. Buaiso invested their time and physical effort to develop dynamic yet refined craftsmanship that still retains the traditional Japanese graphic design. A revival of the abundant Kyokachi traditional labor-intensive resist dyeing method can be seen here, where cloth is clamped tightly between 2 carved boards, and dye stuff is poured through small holes in the boards. Also called itajime board clamping, this ancient method had been recreated by researchers but not put into production until Buaiso took up the challenge. Instead of carving, they cut the boards into fluid shapes to create unique contour map-like overlays, then pouring indigo between the pieces. In 4 trees and 3 plants pattern noren. The patterns include auspicious Choji Kiso symbols, regular Kikomon tortoise-shell hexagons, as well as hints of early modern Shibori sensual plant imaginary, mulberry, paper mulberry, tea, lacquer, indigo, safflower, and hemp. Kachi Kakuo, a founder member of Buaiso, was motivated to study textile dyes in art school because he was mesmerized by vintage jeans. Since then, Kachi has pursued his dream to make jeans with Japanese natural indigo dye. In 2018, his dream came true when he dyed yarn with his own natural indigo, wove denim, drew a pattern, and cut and sewed a pair of jeans with his own hands. Here are 2 references that present how the color of indigo has been used for people's workwear. Tafu Farmers Workwear was made with tafu clothing from Koso paper mulberry in 1942. Harvested in winter, strips of Koso are blanched in melting snow and left out to freeze overnight to soften the fibers, before being woven into farmers' workwear or furoshiki wrapping cloths. The exhibit is a workwear woven around 1942 by Sakaki no Asa from hand-spun Koso fiber threads, and then indigo dyed and hand-stitched. This tafu cloth was made across Japan, but now only a small village in Tokushima Prefecture preserves the technique. This vintage denim fabric was made in the 1870s and given to Kaji Kakuo by Roy Slapper, a founder of original jeans brand Roy Denim in San Francisco, USA. Kaji had an opportunity to visit Slapper's workshop in 2018. In 2019, when Buaiso returned to San Francisco for an indigo dye workshop, Slapper gave this piece of antique fabric to a member of Buaiso because he was moved by the story of Buaiso making their own jeans with self-farmed indigo. Later, when Slapper closed his workshop, he handed his own vintage sewing machines over to Buaiso. Until now, Buaiso has produced 3 models of original jeans dyed with natural indigo. The first model, 810, follows the pattern of the very first jeans invented in the late 19th century. The second model, 819, produced in 2020, uses thinner denim with less fabrication steps to make a pair of affordable handmade jeans. The latest model, 1194, launched in 2022. It is made with the same yarn count and weave structure as vintage denim woven in the 1870s, yet decided to fit Buaiso's dye process. Buaiso's original jeans follow the archetype of denim workwear, with a loose silhouette allowing workers to blend and squat easily. The longer they are worn and washed, they fit like a second skin for the wearer. In this next room is an installation of many ropes dyed in different shades of indigo, which invites visitors to make a twirl weave with it. Visitors are welcome to interact with this large installation of 78 dyed ropes. Up to 5 people can enjoy waving a twirl pattern with these ropes. The multimedia installation in this gallery presents how Buaiso's workwear becomes vintage through audio and visual media, and the display of Buaiso's members' clothing. Most of Buaiso's indigo processes require singing with changeable weather and reacting to unexpected climate conditions. Surrounded by insect sounds in the summer indigo fields, birds chirping in the morning, and the rush of running water in the studio, Buaiso's members work tirelessly to pursue absolute blue. The vintage workwear exhibit can be viewed as archival, documenting the trace of multiple tasks involving natural indigo. The garments are also portrayed, recording the habitual body movement of individual members. This is the end of the exhibition. Natural indigo dye was born from human wisdom, benefit from the anti-odor and antibacterial qualities of this plant. The traditional natural indigo dye technique is fading in Japan because it is time and labor-consuming. However, through Buaiso's works with natural indigo, we can see textile production is not all about efficiency, but showing respect to nature, environment, and human wisdom. We hope this exhibition can provide food for thought of our textile consumption behavior today and how that can impact textile production practices in the future.